people are trying to be somebody that they're not. So I think the first step is identifying those three things and then being like, okay, who am I really? The truth is the audience who is your buyer can sniff out bullshit in a second. Stop pretending to be something that you're not.
You're listening to Customer Growth Sessions, presented by Intergrowth, where we talk through strategies to help up-and-coming e-commerce businesses bring in more customers. I'm your host, Pat Ahern. Let's jump in.
All right, listeners, welcome back to the latest episode of Customer Growth Sessions. Today, I'm thrilled to have on Tracy Stumpf, an Emmy Award-winning TV host and the founder over at Getting On Brand. Today, Tracy spends most of her time coaching founders and CEOs on how to elevate their on-camera presence. Tracy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. What an intro. I appreciate it.
I felt really good about that intro. And as we were talking about it before, I was like, oh, this is good. I like the way that you pitch yourself.
You crushed that copy, Pat.
Tracy, what do you do? Tell us about how you got to where you are today.
Well, I've been hosting television for 13 years. I've hosted over 500 shows on a span of different networks from CBS, MTV, Discovery, just all of the things. And I noticed that there's this gap or this disconnect between people who are running companies and being on camera. And I think after COVID, everybody who is a CEO or a founder or an entrepreneur has to be on camera. And I was noticing that people, they're just not good at it. And I am very good at it. So I started kind of relaying the skills of being on camera to the corporate world.
And it's so true. I mean, you think about pre-COVID where, and I guess we're starting to go back to that, but the norm was everyone's working in the office. There's a ton of in-person meetings. For client pitches, you're doing it in person. And nowadays, I haven't met I meet a client in person once every 3 to 6 months, I would say. Everything just happens over Zoom, Google Meets, you name it. So
yeah,
that video
and
presence is everything.
Zoom and Google and all of this stuff is a camera. You are on camera every single day. And a lot of people get so flipped out by the little green light that is, this virtual portal into everybody's room, and you're just you freeze. And I find it to be so interesting. So I started a company where I go in and I teach these high profile people who are crushing it in so many areas of their life how to be good on camera.
I love it. I love it. And listeners, for context, before today's recording, so probably, I'm going to say a month ago, maybe, Tracy and I sat down and she actually did a coaching session with me, really focused on personal brand in particular and helping me to figure out what is my personal brand. I owe a lot to Tracy. So I was really excited that she said yes to coming on the podcast. We're going to dive into a lot of those best practices for building a personal brand, how to better present yourself on camera. Where do we want to start out, Tracy? Do you want to start talking about the personal brand, call it identity side of things, or how to do a kick-ass job being on camera?
Well, I don't think you can be good on camera until you have a personal brand, until you authentically know who you are. You cannot show up on camera, in my opinion. I think you have to be so grounded in the reality of you before you can turn on a camera.
But let's start out there then. So for listeners who maybe have no picture of what their personal brand is, this is maybe the first time that they're even thinking about that. Yeah. How can they start the process of really mapping out what their personal brand is?
Well, a personal brand to me is who are you at your core, right? And what I do is we go through a series of questions and I put you in a lane. That way, when you turn the camera on, you can just be in that lane and you know who you are and you get an archetype or a mantra or an identity. So you'd be okay, I'm this person when the camera goes on. But if you're going to do this at home, I would say, ask yourself, are you relatable, obtainable, or aspirational, right? Everybody is one of those three things. And I think it's a great jumping off point for every single founder, CEO, entrepreneur, forward-facing, face of the company. So are you aspirational? Meaning like, are people aspiring to be you? Do people want to be you? So then how does an aspirational person act on camera? How do they dress on camera? What's an aspirational person's background? Like start asking yourself all of the questions that fits into those three types. Are you obtainable? Does that mean people can be you? They see themselves in you. They see themselves in your company. They see themselves in your mannerisms, your product. Like you as the person, people see themselves in you and your company. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And then relatability is like, I'm you, you're me, we're the same. And so like, how does that person show up on camera? What is that person's background? How does that person dress? Can you be a bit more disheveled if you're that person? Can you be walking around your house? It changes, your actions change per type. But
Brilliant.
just as a jumping off point, before anybody gets back on camera, I would ask yourself, which one of those three things are you?
Brilliant. And let's say that I, as someone who's going through this exercise, I have no idea which of the three I am. What's the first step I can take to maybe start to isolate that a little bit?
I mean, you got to get real quiet and you got to ask yourself the hard questions. I think a lot of people in the CEO position want to be aspirational, and I think a lot of them are more relatable. And I think that's the disconnect. When people get on camera, they get wishy-washy and funky and they start being too corporate or weird or off brand, as I like to say it. And a lot of that is because people are trying to be somebody that they're not. So I think the first step is identifying those three things and then being like, okay, who am I really? Because the truth is, the audience who is your buyer can sniff out bullshit in a second. So stop pretending to be something that you're not. We're not buying things from people who are acting like somebody that they're not being. It's just not, it's too competitive of a world right now for you to be fake and inauthentic. So get quiet, ask yourself the hard questions. And if you've been pretending to be the aspirational type, take it back and then be like, okay, am I more relatable or am I more obtainable? I don't know. You know?
I love it. And obviously, when we were going through this exercise, if you're working with someone, you're going to get a lot more granular than that. But I love that as a jumping off point to go off of. So let's take it a step further. Let's say that I determine that I'm more so relatable, and when we were going through this exercise, the big characteristic that you gave me is like camp counselor Pat, which I love that. I'm going by that now. I'm showcasing myself rock climbing way more often online, which is something I'd never done before. It's really fun. I love doing this. I love being able to show this side of myself and getting like I would call it the permission for it.
When you showing yourself rock climbing is more about you being a whole person online versus just a CEO bot, right? Like that's you rock climbing is you giving other people this window into your life. And I think a lot of high profile CEOs and founders fail in that arena because they think, oh, if the world sees me out riding a bike, they're going to think I can't answer an email. And it's like, no, that's not true at all. Or if they see me with my kids, they're going to be like, oh, he'll never text me back. And that's just not true. Like we want to see people in power doing things that we do. And
Absolutely.
I think that's where the rock climbing thing comes in for you, is just like showing the people that you are a person, not just a head on a screen.
And I think the exact words that you shared with me when you talked about this is in talking in the concept of AI. The bots are coming. If you're going to be a robot, you're going to blend in with the noise. No one's going to notice you. And that resonated with me so much because I think I told this to you. But so up until a month ago, when you and I sat down and went through this coaching session, I looked back on my presence online. One, I've been married for 3 years at this point. I'm still listed as not married on Facebook. Two, my son was born, at this point 15 months ago. I had never posted about him anywhere online. Three, I had like an old company that I was listed as working at on Facebook because I just never bothered to update. I'm loving it. I'm a month into just starting to post way more rock climbing stuff, my adventures with Oliver on Fridays when I'm off from work. Yeah, listeners, highly recommend doing this. It's really fun and it's definitely more genuine. It's going to make posting on LinkedIn or whatever channel you want way more enjoyable. Hey, listeners, if you're struggling to profitably acquire new customers, we're here to help. Pat from Intergrowth here. We've been helping e-commerce brands like Brevity, Cierto Tequila, Bella Bridesmaids, and more since 2016 to profitably scale their customer base. If you're interested in learning more, go to intergrowth.com/CGS and you can schedule a complimentary consultation with me. Once again, that's intergrowth.com/CGS.
My theory is the robots are coming and they're coming for our jobs. It's just what's happening. This is the age that we're in right now. And I think people are going to have the option to either work with a person or work with a bot. And so why lose your job early? Let them see the whole you. That's the one thing the robots don't have on us is authenticity and personality and warmth and a family and rock climbing and, tequila shots. Like that's the thing that the robots don't have. And that's the thing that draws people to other people is humanity and connection and relatability.
And so within that, let's say, just for the sake of the exercise, this was true for me, but let's say relatable is like really the big characteristic that a listener reflects on and they walk forward with, e-com brand. Let's say I've used pillows a million times, but let's work with that example. I'm selling high-end pillows, mostly online, maybe a little bit on Amazon as well, or on my website, a little bit on Amazon as well. How do I determine where are the places that I really need to be like pushing my personal brand forward to either scale up my e-com business, to scale up my professional presence online? Where should I be really thinking about posting, or how should I be going about finding those sources?
Well, I think you need to think of yourself as you are the brand and then you're representing a brand, right? So like the big umbrella is the person who owns the pillow company, the luxury pillow company. And then the pillow company is the stick of the umbrella, right? Who are you? Who are you showing up as you represent this brand? So if you're relatable, then it would be like, okay, hey, I'm just a guy or I'm just a girl who had a really hard time sleeping. And then I found this pillow, right? And now I'm selling these pillows. So that's like the relatability of it. And then the luxury is the brand, right? The brand is aspirational, right? The brand is something that like you aspire to have, you aspire to be. So like I think that's like a really beautiful combination of relatability and aspirational, right? Because like the pillow is the thing that you want. The pillow is the thing that's going to change your life. Like you can almost touch it. You can almost get it. You want that in your life. But the piece of selling that would be the relatability. Who's the person behind the pillow? The person behind the pillow is some tired mom that like just started this company because she couldn't sleep and like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing that she's ever done. And now we can all relate to not sleeping, right? And is that kind of where you're going with this question?
Absolutely.
And then in terms of posting, are you asking like Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter? Like what would be the best for that?
Yeah, and I realize it's going to vary depending on the audience, but I'm curious how you go about determining, which one or maybe two channels to really spend your time on.
Well, it kind of depends on the brand. I think you have to ask yourself, where does this brand post? So like you as like the camp counselor of your company, like I feel like Instagram is like a big thing for you. Facebook feels very like camp counselor. I think TikTok feels less important. LinkedIn feels very like you're guiding, you're leading, you're moving people forward. So I would say like, what does the brand do? I think that's the jumping off point for every single thing before you post, do any social media or get on camera. It's like, what's good for the brand? And you are the brand. You represent your company, which is another brand, but you are the brand. Your company could go away tomorrow and then you're still standing. Who are you being while you're representing this company?
Hey, listeners. If you're terrified about what AI means for how customers are going to find you online, I have some good news for you. SEO, Meta ads, Google ads, these platforms are still going to drive the lion's share of your new customers over the next 5 years. But these platforms are evolving. At Intergrowth, we help e-commerce brands to future-proof their revenue and to scale more profitably through SEO and Meta ads. If you're interested in learning more, book a free strategy session with our team at intergrowth.com/CGS. Once again, that's intergrowth.com/CGS. And one of the follow-ups I wanted to touch on within that is you and I talked a lot about the idea of like actually getting on camera rather than just written text. And, I mean, even for context, and I'll put myself on the team on the spot, like I promised you when you said you were going to come on the podcast, this was going to be the first episode we were going to release with video associated. So, hi, listeners. All the other episodes have been just audio only. And you really convinced me, like, you need to be doing video. So, walk me through that. Why is it that you feel video is so important as part of that personal brand?
I mean, it kind of goes back to the robot thing, right? Like we want to connect with people. We want to see people. We want to like put a face to the voice. We want to put a face to the product. We want to put a face to the company. And we want to be like, okay, we know this person. We can like connect eye to eye, whether it's or screen to screen. Like we want to be included, and showing your face is a way to include people. We live in such an isolated society right now, and like being on camera all the time is so weird. It's so weird. Like this is uncharted territory. You might as well make it as personal of an experience as you possibly can.
Absolutely. I always laugh because I know some people who for their job they'll be on camera like 8 hours a day, and maybe they're off camera for lunch breaks, but they're at like a small team that has everyone on like Zoom at all hours of the day, and that skeeves me out more than like almost anything that aside from being working at a company that like monitors your screen time and looks at what you're doing. It's like those two are right up there as the almost like the creepiest things I feel like can happen. No disrespect if companies do that. I get it. Everyone has their own policies, but to your point, yeah, it's not like a natural thing to be on camera, I think, for most people. And I'm sure you get to that point over time, but it takes a long time, I think.
I have a lot of empathy for people in these like power positions, yourself included. Like I have a lot of empathy for CEOs. I have a lot of empathy for founders, entrepreneurs, because this isn't what you guys signed up for. I wanted to host television since I was born. Like this is all I wanted to do, was be on camera and be myself on camera. And I threw my entire existence into this, like my whole world is about being on camera, but it's not for you guys. And I think it's so unfair because we're living in this day and age right now where you have to do everything, and you have to do everything well. And it sucks. You have to host a podcast. You have to be politically correct or you're going to get canceled. You have to have a social presence. You have to run your company well. You have to be on Zoom calls. You have to make videos. You have to make content. You have to do all of these things. And it's like you signed up to do one of those things, and that was to run a company, So like my intention is to take one thing off of your plate, and that's being good on camera. Like, just want people to like turn on their camera, see the green light and be like, okay, at least I don't have to worry about showing up and showing up well. But I have so much, a sincere amount of empathy for everybody who is in positions like yours, Pat, where this isn't what you wanted. This is just what you got thrown into. And it sucks.
No, absolutely. And I would say for me, it's worked out probably better than most people because, like, when I was younger, I loved acting, and I always thought it was a pain in the ass to memorize lines, and that's probably the main reason I didn't stick with it in like high school and college is because I was lazy. But
Yeah.
like I loved getting on stage. I thought that was so fun when I was in like elementary school, middle school. Have always loved giving presentations. As soon as you have that little psychological trick where you convince yourself that that fear that you're feeling is actually excitement. Once I got to that point, I was like, oh, we're golden. Within that, though, that's a perfect segue. Can you give us some of your cheat codes? Maybe let's start out with some of the biggest mistakes you'll see. You're working with a brand new founder, brand new CEO. You're just kicking off your video training with them. What are some of the most common mistakes you see them making that are maybe are straightforward fixes once they've identified their personal brand that will really help listeners, maybe coming out of the podcast today, 3 changes, 5 changes they can make to be 10% better on camera?
I mean, I would say it always comes down to finding out what your brand is, always figuring out who you are authentically and showing up as that person. And after that, consistent, predictable, reliable. Be those 3 things: consistently your brand, predictably your brand, and reliably your brand. And you're fail proof, because when you fail as your authentic self, it's not failing, right? It's like you're just being. And then they're just like, oh, it wasn't a mess up. It was just him or her being themselves on camera, which is where we want to be. So you want to be consistent, predictable, and reliable within your brand.
Interesting.
And like a lot of people ask that question and they want me to be like, well, like make sure you're always looking directly at the camera. And like when you look down, people don't trust that, and always be lit from both sides. And that's just not true. I don't give generic advice because I think generic advice is counterproductive and I think it can hurt a lot of people. Because if your brand is the quirky one, then maybe you do look all over the place when you're talking, and that's fine. That's authentically who you are. But if you're like the type A person, then you can't be looking all over the place. You have to be right at the camera, right? So it's like you can't be like, here's step 1, 2, and 3 to being great on camera. You have to find out who you are and then operate from that place versus just like, oh, ChatGPT told me not to, move my hands, but I'm a hand mover. Then move your hands, you know?
So with that, for the listeners that are sold, that are saying, I need to figure out my personal brand and I need to start going on camera, what are some of the places you would recommend maybe that they start practicing with that so they don't feel like, oh, this first experience I have is going to be doing this big conference talk and I'm just terrified of this experience. What are some of maybe the baby steps that are good for listeners to take first?
3 times a day, take out your phone, turn the camera around and do a house tour. Show your kitchen to yourself, show your bedroom, show your living room, like do a house tour every single day. Get on camera 3 times a day. Don't send it to anybody. Don't post it. Like just get in the habit of being on camera every single day. And if you can, like I said at the beginning, like which 3? Are you obtainable? Are you relatable? Or are you aspirational? And then be one of those things and make sure your background and make sure your home reflects one of those 3 brand archetypes. And every single day for 14 days, put yourself on camera 3 times a day. Work that muscle out. That's the scariest part. Like watch back your footage. And I think it's the cringiest thing to do is watch yourself back. But every single person listening who wants to get better on camera, watch it back. Critique yourself. Figure out what you're doing right. What do you hate? What do you love? What matches within like those 3 archetypes? Like what works, what doesn't? And then the next video at lunchtime, fix it. And be consistent, predictable, and reliable. Be those 3 things.
What's the sign that listeners, after they've gone through, they've done their house tour for 14 days, let's say, what sign should they look for that they're ready to start posting their authentic selves online?
Nobody is ever ready. You just have to do it. You just have to do it. You're never going to be ready. You're never going to have the right lighting. You're never going to have the right outfit. Your hair's always going to be weird. Like nothing will ever be perfect. You just have to do it. Consistency. That's the part of the 3. Just be consistent and just do it. Just do it. Know your brand and do it.
And I'll just add into that as well, listeners, barring the listeners who maybe are, running a $100 million company, I give this advice to people when it comes to writing blog content as well. A lot of people will say, oh, well, I don't want to post my first blog article until it's perfect. And my sentiment is almost always that, hey, unless you're running a massive brand, unless you have a massive following online, the first 10 times you post things, no one is going to see it. It's going to be like your mom and like your 3 best friends that you're connected to on whatever channel you're posting to. And they're going to give it a thumbs up. They're going to support it in some way. Your mom's going to say you look great on there, dear. Yeah. No one in your network is going to see that first post. So put it out there, get over those initial nerves, and just continue growing from there.
And here's the thing. If 1 million people do see it, great. It's only great. Who cares? You did it. 1 million people saw this. It can always be better. Everything can always be better. But what you can never fix is not doing it. So just do it. Everybody's running this race and everybody deserves a spot in the race. So just start. Just start.
Tracy, this has been amazing. For listeners who want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to contact you?
You can reach out on Instagram. That's pretty reliable for me. Or gettingonbrand.com, but Instagram's better for me.
And listeners, we'll share Tracy's Instagram handle in the show notes here. Tracy, this has been amazing. Once again, listeners, this is Tracy Stumpf, the founder over at Getting On Brand. Tracy, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. This was really lovely. And you know what, Pat? You shined. You're a shining star on camera.
You too. You too.
Thanks for tuning in to Customer Growth Sessions. If you found it helpful, subscribe and give us a review. It helps us to grow the show. Looking for more SEO guidance on how to grow your business? Contact us at intergrowth.com/estimator or email me directly. You can reach me at pat@intergrowth.com. That's all for today. We'll see you again soon.